Is rugby masculine?
People only care about things when it directly affects them. Trying to get more out of him because he's like, this is amazing.
Hello everybody. So I got Mohammed over here because there has been a little clip that has been doing the rounds on social media.
Yeah.
But it hasn't picked up yet by big media companies. And I thought that you would be good to react to it because it's very funny actually. It's laughable. And besides that, also, I think because you have a past in rugby,
Okay.
I think it would be like good to get your little 2 cents on. So here we go.
Intrigued?
Inscreverias a tua filha no rugby?
Eu não quero ser politicamente incorreto, mas acho que não.
Nothing ever good comes out of.
No.
I don't mean to insult you, but...
But also for context, this is the Portuguese rugby captain.
Acho que não inscreveria a minha filha no rugby. Por algumas razões. Primeira, porque sei o que é que o rugby traz ao nosso corpo e não é simpático. Tem muitas lesões associadas, tem muita coisa que eu não gostava de ver a minha filha passar por isso. E na verdade acho que vou deixar só esta razão.
Thoughts so far?
Fair enough, if that's his opinion.
Yeah.
I'm sure plenty of people who have played rugby before might have the same thoughts, whether it's a daughter, whether it's a son. So I think as a parent, I'm not a parent, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would assume that a lot of people have that sort of conceptions about certain sports.
And protection, and also with massive brain injuries, concussions, like bones breaking, like it is a very physical sport in that sense.
Yeah. And I think someone had told me before, he had spoken to a lot of other rugby players and they had said that whether they'd recommend other people to do it, knowing what it does to their bodies.
Yeah.
Like, it's fair enough. It's an opinion, I guess.
Yeah, that's valid.
His opinion.
Yeah. Now, remember that he said, but I'll leave it at that for now. And we're only 40 seconds in, so we still have 2 minutes to go.
Okay.
Pá, imagina, não é um rugby, não é um desporto, isto não é muito corretamente, não é muito correto dizer isso, mas não é um desporto que eu acho especialmente atrativo. Acho que há desportos que existem que é praticamente igual o desporto feminino. Pá, isto agora está a ser lixado dizer.
Eu sei, mas pá, tem piada assim.
Não, claro, pá, mas há desportos que são muito parecidos entre homens e mulheres. Pá, e quando estás a falar de um desporto que é tão físico, há tanta colisão e etc. Não estou a dizer, há excelentes jogadoras de rugby, mas é um desporto tão diferente de homem para mulher que eu acho que não é especialmente aquele desporto que eu adoraria ver a minha filha jogar.
Whether that's backed up by science, I don't think you can actually say that that's actually true. Now, you could argue that what he's saying there is like you don't need to have science to prove that it's the collisions are different, etc., but I don't think there's enough science to actually prove that point, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So for you to, like, that can be his opinion, but I don't think you could easily challenge what he said there by saying, can you prove to me factually that they're like, he's talking about collisions and all that kind of thing, that it is worse for women. Now, look, we all have our opinions, but until you can actually provide factual evidence to that, I don't think it's fair for him to say that. But then I think he's alluding to the fact that basically that rugby isn't feminine.
He says it's not attractive.
Yeah, and what does he mean by that?
I think it's the fact that because it is a contact sport and that it's very physical, that rugby is a masculine sport. And he's insinuating that the women that play rugby are therefore masculine, therefore not attractive.
Yeah, and I think that's... So the first point he made about it being rough and physical and injuries, I think that's a valid point, and I think that's a concern. And then the second point that I think he's making there is more of a stereotype these days than anything factual. And whether that's a cultural thing, look, if that's a cultural thing and that's his opinion, everyone's entitled to their opinion. And I don't know the reaction from the split, but I hope he isn't getting cancelled for what he's saying, because I think I think it's good to have conversation. He's obviously the captain of the Portugal men's rugby team.
Yes.
And if that's his opinion, fine. Okay. But it's important to have these conversations and to essentially help him change his mind and help him not think that. Yep. Obviously, it's not great that he's the rugby captain, as you said, and I know they did quite well in the men's rugby World Cup. So he obviously has a platform. But I do think that kind of thinking does need to change, because that's just putting people in boxes. And well, again, I'd say attractiveness is subjective.
Exactly. But it's also like the traditional, like the muscle, physicality.
Yeah, and look, that's now going into another topic that maybe I don't want to get into.
No.
But people have their different preferences. People have, like I said, attractiveness is subjective. And if you go to all different parts of the world, people might think a certain thing is attractive, and people might think another thing is attractive. And probably if you look through the course of history, what was deemed attractive, it is changing. Like all these models, and now it's becoming CrossFit and God knows what else. But so I think that is changing. I think it's unfair to highlight every woman who plays rugby as unattractive. I think that's very...
Like, he threw a blanket statement over. Yeah. And that goes with stereotypes.
Absolutely.
Do you think, though, so he is not getting cancelled right now.
Okay.
Right now, and we're recording it on the 17th of November.
Yes.
So we don't know where social media will go with this. Is it disrespectful that the Portuguese rugby, like captain of the men's team, is saying that when there, I'm assuming, is a Portuguese women's rugby team?
There is a Portuguese women.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's also like, why are you giving that nudge towards them, calling them unattractive? Does this help? Of course not.
No, it doesn't. Look, all parts of society nowadays, if you have an opinion and it goes online, and if you don't agree with what the majority of people say, you're going to get a hammering. And a lot of people don't want to talk now online because they're scared. Online.
You could see that he was scared. Yeah. He was holding himself back. So that is like a lot to it. Now, the thing is that we still haven't finished the clip.
Okay.
But how do you change this opinion?
I think it's to do with conversation's important. I'm sure, look, he's playing 15s, so maybe it's a different dynamic that they don't engage with the women's team as much. I know in sevens, it's a lot more of a community where they're training with each other sometimes, particularly in the Irish setup. They'd come across each other a lot. So I think, look, like you said, we haven't finished the conversation yet. And from what he's saying, I don't think that he is completely on one side. I think he might be open to changing his mind with a bit of conversation and with a bit more education, hearing from maybe the female rugby players who have played and maybe hear their experiences. So
let's keep on.
Yeah?
Sim, foi daí a minha pergunta, porque queria falar um bocado também sobre masculinidade, porque eu vejo rugby e acho um ótimo exemplo de masculinidade espetacular. Porque, sei lá, hoje em dia quase sempre que se fala de masculinidade é com adjetivos.
I think he's also now being slightly
cornered. Yeah.
By the interviewer who's trying to get more out of him, because he's like, this is amazing. You've basically said you don't want to say something. You started with, I don't want to give my opinion, but, and then you gave your opinion.
And they're unattractive.
Exactly. And now is my chance to keep you going. I'm gonna reel you in, which that question is. So let's see what he says. I'm intrigued. He's been set up to fail here.
Piores logo a seguir. E ver homens a lutarem para ser a melhor versão deles, a lutarem em grupo, perante a adversidade e as cabeçadas e os narizes partidos a continuarem, eu acho mesmo bonito. Não sei, eu acho que também não meteria uma filha no rugby e se calhar pelas mesmas razões. Acho que não devemos ter medo de dizer que em média olhas para o fenótipo do genótipo XX não é? E do genótipo XY e em média acho que há coisas que tu podes dizer que são mais de um e mais de outro.
Sim.
E o homem é mais de porrada e mais ou seja, acho que se pode dizer que é um desporto mais de homem, não é?
Sim, não, sem dúvida.
Mas eu percebo também o teu medo de dizer uma coisa destas hoje em dia.
Hoje em dia nunca se sabe.
Is rugby masculine?
There's a stereotype that it is, but that's a preconception of what masculinity is.
Exactly. Now, in fairness, I do agree with him that whenever the topic of conversation of masculinity is brought up, there's always toxic right in front of it. And that is unhealthy to just constantly bring in that when we think of masculinity now, you nearly immediately think of toxic masculinity.
Okay, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with masculinity. There's nothing wrong with femininity.
Yeah.
The way you describe rugby is beautiful. Just remove the men's rugby thing in front of it. That's what I think.
Look, I agree. And look, coming back to it, his original point of it being too physical and he'd be a caring parent, never wants to see their kids get hurt or anything like that.
100%.
Even when I was playing rugby, I'm pretty sure my mum didn't like me playing rugby. My grandmum didn't like the thought of me playing rugby.
It's scary.
Yeah,
I don't want to see your child concussed.
For sure. And I know there's some people, whether you're a boy or a girl, you won't like that contact.
Yes.
And then there's others who love it and want to get tackled, they want to get hit and want to tackle other people. Like, again, a personal example, I used to hate rugby training.
Okay.
So much. I used to hate it. They used to put us in like this 4x4 small box and you used to have people running at each other when it's cold, it's muddy. I don't want to be here. But that is what it is. But some people love it.
Yeah.
And some people love that contact, and those are the people you want to stand very far away from.
100%.
But I think his initial point, it's
valid.
At the end of the day, though, I would hope, as a parent as well, I'm sure his daughter watches him play rugby and wants to kind of like, would love to see what it's like or think that she can do it.
Exactly.
So inevitably, I hope that it is her decision, not his, that he completely just doesn't let her play rugby because he thinks it's his opinion, again, which I think he's allowed to have his opinion. But if she was like, you know what, I want to play rugby, he's not going to completely stop her. And I don't think, as a parent as well, you always want to give your kids as much as you can. So I'd be interested to see how that plays out. But then the piece about, which I think is, in my opinion, wrong, talking about attractiveness and masculinity and all that sort of thing, it's subjective. Mm-hmm. So look, again, he can think that it's not very feminine for a girl to have a broken nose or to go up and smash people and chop legs and do all that kind of stuff. Look,
the thing is that sorry,
go to war.
Yeah, there's so much that women can do, and the interesting thing is that I feel like if there's women that are watching this that are probably my age, not everyone, right?
Yeah,
but like we would have grown up hearing football is for boys, rugby is for boys.
Yeah.
This is for boys. And it's so tough to like undo that mentally.
Yeah.
It's so difficult because it's wired in your brain, man. Mm. And equally, and that's the thing that as I got older, I had to understand. With that narrative being in my head, I also need to empathize with people like that have that narrative in their head. Yeah. But they ended up on the right end of the stick because they were born as men. And it's good that at least he was given a platform to speak his opinion. So I'm not here for the censoring, but I am here for, I do think that people need to hear more men comfortably speak and openly speak about your opinion.
Yeah.
Because if this remains as locker room talk, this is an example in my opinion of locker room.
Yeah. He wouldn't, he maybe didn't realize where this is going, or he didn't think it through. Or maybe he did at the start, then he kind of just let it go. Yeah. But I agree. I think his opinion is what the majority of people, again, I'm just making, this is what I think the majority of people might think, but would never say out loud. So I think it's good that he's aired it out to the public, because then we can have these conversations and we can have informed conversations. We can hear about other people's opinions and we can find a common understanding, or find, okay, this is why he thinks this is why other people think this, and how can we work together as opposed to just butt heads online all the time, which I'm sure the comment sections on this again, I haven't seen it. It's probably very toxic.
It's very much like, how dare he? And then also it's like, why are you saying that you're not going to allow your daughter to play rugby because it's unattractive?
Yeah.
Like that's weird as well.
It's stupid. It's stupid. But again, it's his opinion. So in my opinion, what he is saying is stupid because it's so old school, which I think hopefully we will come out the other side of that and people can do. Look, if you want to play rugby, play rugby.
If you don't.
You can be a winger in rugby and not have to, again, tackle as many people or get involved in the rucks and get involved in the scrum. Or you can be a prop, you can be a second row and embrace the contact, embrace the physicality, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see an issue with it. If his daughter wants to play rugby, let her play rugby.
Exactly. And it's also, there's always this narrative with rugby where it's for different bodies and whatnot.
Yeah.
But we've seen over time that, like, the way upper management tried to make women's sports attractive for men is sexualizing the women. You know, the shorter shirts.
Yeah, and honestly, that might be a case of maybe how this whole narrative has started, because I think I'd seen a photo a couple of days ago of the first ever Irish woman who competed at the Olympics.
Okay.
I think it was in archery or something like that. And she was dressed in like a shirt, a full dress gone down to her ankles, and competing in scorching heat. If you Google women's sport, if you TikTok women's sport, if you look up women's sport, what are the first pictures you see? What are the first videos you see? It's very much the sexualization of women and women in sport. So I think that's the thought that people think, okay, you know what, if they're playing sport, they need to be playing volleyball on the beach, or they need to be, I don't even know what. So it's changing. I know, again, it's a cultural thing, because I know, do you know Khabib Nurmagomedov? He's the MMA fighter. And they asked him, do you think people should compete in MMA? He said no. And this guy's considered to be one of the best MMA fighters. He knows what it takes. He knows you're hurting people, you're fighting people. So people involved in it probably know better what it takes and what you go through. So fair enough if he doesn't want his daughter to compete for that reason. But I think it needs to be for the right reasons. And at the end of the day, regardless if he's scared of her being injured or not injured, and again, I'm not a parent, so it's easy for me to say, but look, if they want to do it, you got to let them learn the hard way, or let them live their lives. And
I think it's just unfortunate, in my opinion anyways, that there are men that obviously will be looking up to him. Yeah. And they would probably take, in my opinion anyways, they would take the latter part of his statement and not the first part. Yeah. Because the first part I completely agree with. The second part is a small opportunity and a small opening to go hard again on the work that we have been doing, but a bunch of people have been doing. So it's like, those are opinions, and we're all for freedom of speech. It's just, I think this is the point why we're recording this video, is this opinion is still very much there. It still really exists. We haven't got it. We've gotten better, but female rugby players are still fighting.
Yeah, and look, I know this is talking about rugby and attractiveness from a physical perspective. Yes. But you see it with tennis when people, you have Serena Williams. I think Naomi Osaka before has lost her temper or be frustrated at umpire calls and smash the racket or argue with umpires. And, you know, it's honed in being like, this isn't feminine, this isn't, I guess, attractive, or this is how women should behave. But then you have the likes of Djokovic, John McEnroe, etc., who that was their thing, you know, showing emotion, it's passion, it's competitiveness, you wanting to win. So you can't have it both ways. And I know we've done an interview before with Molly Scott, who's an Irish athlete. I think she's 60 meter, 100 meter, and she does hurdles as well. And she spoke about, she loves sport, she loved the competitiveness of sport, but because she's a female, it's people think that she's bitchy. That if you're competitive, you're bitchy. Yes. But if you're a man and you're competitive, you know, you want to win, you're a winner. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah, you're bossy as a woman.
Exactly.
You're a leader as a boy.
Exactly.
That's so long, yeah.
Like 100%. Those kind of things are things that we need to change, but it'll probably take time to do. And conversations like this is bad, but good. Bad because obviously you want them to change that thought process.
Yeah.
But good that, look, it's bringing it out for a conversation.
I think it's also difficult to see probably because it's like all he needs to do is just go to the other side of the sports campus he's on, and just have a chat with the women, talk to them. I think it's like, it really is not that bad. Your opinion can change. Just tune in and watch a game. Like, even what he's talking about like unattractiveness, and this is not meant for women. Just watch it. Just watch it. I think that's been the turnaround point, even with the Women's World Cup. When men started to tune in, they're like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it, knowing that, like, I'm not saying this could have been you, but if you remained in the rugby environment, if your pod didn't end up here, like, what do you think? Like,
I'm not sure. Like, what do you mean from that?
What I mean by that is, I think sometimes, this is my opinion now from the outside perspective, is that
the lad culture
is very protective or defensive of locker room talk, which I understand because women, stereotypically again, but like it's known as like there's a cut session stuff. Now, I don't know how to explain it, but like, how does it feel? Like, were you in a similar situation like that?
Look,
did it change? How did it change?
I think his opinion and his piece of attractiveness and all that kind of thing, I would say, I don't want to paint some of my friends with a brush, but I'd say some of them have that opinion.
Yes, they do.
And I can't tell them what they should find attractive and what they shouldn't find attractive.
That's up to them.
Yeah. So do that. But I think slowly but surely things are turning, and Pages is turning slowly but surely. Whether it might be my age demographic or the ages below us coming through. The other thing is, say you are now 9, 10, 11 years old, you're seeing girls play rugby from that age. So that's not normal. Like, people, like when I was growing up, girls, like, I didn't see a single girl play rugby in my school.
I was surprised that there's rugby clubs for young girls now.
Yeah, which was never.
I didn't hear that. That would have been so much fun.
Now, when you're younger, you're seeing girls play, and hopefully that changes the culture around it, because I think culture is hugely important.
Yes.
We can try and talk and educate and show people, but that can be a short-term fix. Culture is...
that's deeply rooted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whether that changes tomorrow, I don't know, but I think it's interesting. Overall, from that video that we just saw, obviously I don't agree with everything that he said, but I'm glad that it made the cut, because also maybe if he asked the person to send him back the video and was like, you know what, cut that completely.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. At least like he's putting his money where his mouth is. Like, say it and say it with your chest.
And I'd like to think that if someone spoke to him, and I hope people reached out to him from the women's team to say, do you know what, I didn't like what you said there. Can we have a chat?
Yeah.
And talk about it. I don't think, was there more to that clip? I don't know, but I know our screen has just died on us. But I don't think he's completely set in stone what he's saying, that like, no, they will never play in this. Yeah. It was his opinion, but it can be changed. Opinions change, a lot of things change. So
I think that's the key, like, that I'd like to end it on, which is like, your opinion can change.
Absolutely.
You know, it's fine.
Absolutely.
Like, ideally this opinion never existed for everyone's good.
Yeah.
But it can get better.
And absolutely. And I think on that, opinions change when stuff directly affects you, or when your eyes are opened to other things. So we often see that when a man becomes a father of a daughter, they become more interested in it. They start to understand it. They want, now that I have a daughter, I want her to have the same opportunities that I had. And maybe they didn't care before that, which isn't right. No. But that's just life.
Yes.
People only care about things when it directly affects them. That's just how things work. No, I don't think that's right, but that just is how things work.
It is, for sure. It's like, I've been fine my whole life. I'm not going to look over and see their problems because I'm dealing with
vision. Exactly.
No,
that's what, it's not right. I don't agree with that
But we are living all
that's just
our own life at the end of the day. So you understand that. So that is that. If this were to blow up, how would you, like, how do we have these conversations? Like, we're doing this video right now, but what I can predict is maybe a massive paper is going to pick this up and they're going to run with it, and there's going to be like mass cry.
What I would like is, if that did happen, which would be cool, because I think this is a topic that a lot of people would have opinions on.
Yes.
It's not just an opinion that, you know, you're in sport that you care about, or you're in women's sport that you care about. I genuinely think if you bring this topic to any workplace, to any office environment, to any family household, people would have an opinion on it, and it would be really interesting to hear what people think. And I think you'll have people who think like him, you'll have people who think like me, you have people who think like you. You'd have a huge range of opinions, and I think the only thing the good that can come out of it is if people talk to each other and understand each other's viewpoints. Because I think it's so important to understand why he thinks that, and then he can understand why I think what I think, and find common ground. Because that's how things progress. Otherwise, I'm beating my own drum, he's beating his drum, and we butt heads, or we just never even try to understand what could work, or how can he change his opinion. And maybe he doesn't need to change his opinion, but how can he understand it from my point of view? And how can I understand it from his point of view?
Exactly. I think that's the focus. The focus is on not him as a pair.
Absolutely.
It's the attractiveness piece. It's the as a man towards women, you know?
Yeah.
So very good. Don't cancel him.
Yeah.
Have a good
I'm going to get roasted in the comments.
Yeah. No, don't.
Do your best.
Do your best. Don't roast him in the comments, or else we'll have to deal with me.
Yeah, do. Yeah.
Go on. There you go. Cheers. Thanks, everybody. Let us know what you think, and get us to 7,000 subscribers. We're nearly there. So hit that subscribe, follow, like, comment. Cheers. Bye-bye.